goes live in 2 minutes. Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Well, hello there and welcome. I'm staring at the door, waiting for Chris Potter to blow through, but he has not. Jess, my producer, is running to see if he's here. Oh, boy. Okay, so we got lots to talk about, and I really do want to hear what Potter thinks. I want to hear what you think as well. I always complain about State of the Union addresses, but I did, of course, watch, and ended up getting pulled into it, although then I found myself wandering around a lot, oh, I think I'll do the dishes, I can still listen. When it gets into that laundry list part, I can't take it. But I mean, obviously, I voted for this guy, so I it's getting to be a habit. Only you're getting.
I was getting a drink of water.
Oh. That, in case you haven't seen it, is a reference to the Republican rebuttal to the President's State of the Union address last night, this time by Senator Marco Rubio. And if you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend it. No, what was odd about it?
Yeah, it's like he was almost trying to sneak it.
But no, it was, and so and he just maintained eye contact the whole time. I mean, it would have been much. It would have been much better if he just sort of went like this, in just a second, excuse me. But it was like, and there was this. He must have had some such. I actually almost felt sorry for him.
The part where he maintained eye contact with the camera
it was very odd. That's what. It still would have been something that went viral, but that really made it very odd. And it's too bad because, of course, now that's all we're talking about. I mean, for him, and we're not talking about whatever it was he was talking about. But
yeah, although it's funny. I was rereading his. I mean, I didn't actually see the his response.
Yeah.
So I was reading it this morning, and it was. He just had a line in there that just made me want to punch my computer screen, which is, government policy can't determine the weather. or something like that. That's essentially their
Lord.
response to
Oh, dear
climate
Lord.
change, right?
Really?
I mean, and you just know it's one of those things. They had a bunch of, guys focus test or whatever. Oh, government officials trying to do the weather.
That's amazing. That's
and
amazing.
it's just so there you go. So that's going to be the Republican response to any attempt to rationally discuss climate change and any.
Well, I just want to say about dry mouth.
Yeah.
Have you ever had it?
Sure.
I mean, like in a public speaking situation.
So, yeah.
When you have dry mouth, it is awful.
Yeah.
I mean, because your like lips are sticking to your teeth.
Yeah, they should have just put
there's no and he probably was. You have to believe that for like 3, 4, 5 minutes before he took that lunge,
He was dying.
he was
for
like
it.
dying
Yeah.
and thinking, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through this. I don't know what if I start choking on here. Oh my God. So I mean, that had to have impacted his performance of the.
Yeah.
So he finally just some survival instinct took over and he lunged. And it was very odd. Of course, today he's handling it well. He's joking about it, blah, blah, blah. But thank God for, what is it about that Republican response?
Yeah, because Jindal did something. What did Jindal do?
No, Jindal just, they always bring out.
He walked onto the screen and it was very strange.
He walked on and then he gave this I remember watching that one. It was awful. It was awful. He got smaller and smaller as the speech went on. And you know what's funny is you think Republicans trot out what they consider signs that they're not racist. So Jindal gets it, then Rubio gets it.
Right.
They still have never had a black person do it.
Is that true?
I don't know, but I feel like I'm awfully.
It's
I'm probably
a safe guess. Yeah.
Probably a very safe guess.
Anyway, so.
Okay, so we have the State of the Union. Okay, let's do State of the Union because then there's so much else I want to get into. I was, did you see they were wearing green ribbons?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that
was a Newtown thing, yeah.
Yeah, honor the Newtown. So I thought it was interesting. So you're sitting there through the whole speech and you're seeing Biden with his ribbon. And, of course, Boehner doesn't have one. And I'm thinking, why wouldn't you put the friggin' green ribbon on, Boehner? We're just being told that it's to honor the victims. You got a problem with that? You depoliticize the ribbon by putting it on.
Yeah.
Why didn't? And they didn't.
Yeah.
How stupid are they?
Yeah. Yeah.
So then they look like I'm not honoring I'm not honoring those dead children.
Right. Screw those dead kids.
I mean, how?
Yeah.
And
I think it just shows the extent to which they're just completely captives of not the NRA exactly, but that whole sort of ethos and mythos or whatever you want to call it. Over there, and then of course there was. I did not see Ted Nugent at all.
No.
Did any of the cameras pan away?
No.
Okay,
And I actually had a bet with my sister
that they would just avoid that clown.
She said, they would definitely take a shot of him, and I said, "There's no way."
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have much faith anymore in journalistic ethics, but I thought they would not, and they did not.
Yeah. Because next year it would just be like Slappy the Clown or something.
Oh my God. Excuse me.
Hiya, kids.
Where's my Poland water?
That was the other thing. Some serious product placement for that bunch. But now they're going to be politicized. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, I will not buy Poland water anymore because Mark Rubio drinks it. Here's the other thing. I said yesterday, I hate, boy.
Whatever you do not break eye contact with the.
Help.
Don't die. Actually, it would be a great scoop for us.
Did you read?
Wait, let me get on my Twitter account.
Did you read that funny story about Ed Koch, who, when he was mayor, famously was choking to death in a deli, and some guy jumped up and Heimlicked him, and the mayor later. I mean, the story was it was some watercress. Watercress. The truth, which came out later, was that he was eating spare ribs, pork spare ribs.
Oh.
And it was right before I guess one of his re-election bids. And if he'd been...
I did not know that he hadn't been keeping kosher.
Yeah, if it had gotten out that he was eating, even though he wasn't. So he blamed it on watercress, because what's watercress going to, like, you know, whatever. But I thought that was...
You know, that is interesting. Poland Spring, you know, Poland was a communist nation, I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah. This is true. So here's the thing. I always say I hate watching these things because you can't take the president. It's always a three-shot. You always have the vice president and the Speaker of the House in the shot with the president.
Right.
And watching I mean, if it's not all the same party, watching the person who's not of the president's party twitch and, well...
I like that part, actually. That's like one of my favorite things.
I have to tell you, Boehner, I have never... Because I'm a student of watching the speaker.
Right.
I have never seen a speaker so just miserable.
Yeah, he looked glum.
Miserable. Glum. And at one point, this is when I wish I was still in TV, because I'd like to extract this and just do a whole play-by-play of it, you know, for people. His tongue started like flicking, like a snake, you know, sort of like a... I'm not kidding you.
Like
His tongue started just going... And then somehow
he started swallowing hamsters.
Right, and then somehow he got his tongue back in his mouth. But then there were like these witches. It was like some. It was wonderful. And I wrote that. And then later there was another point at which I thought he was going to have a coronary. His eyes looked like they were bulging out of his head. He couldn't. I mean. Remember when the president noted the 102-year-old woman who had stood in line for God knows how long to vote?
Yeah.
And then everybody stood up to applaud her. She tried to stand up. It was sort of sad. She was like this, and she couldn't. And I guess Boehner did not stand up. And when you look at what they didn't stand for, you know, like... The president would say something like, "So I'm for apple pie and motherhood," and up goes Biden and everybody else, and Boehner. Oh, God, it was unbelievable.
Right. Well, you just know they're just like, it's a trap. Don't stand up.
Well, he was pretty strong on climate change.
Yeah.
The president.
Yeah.
And then he said something about science. We have to base our, you know, on science. I thought, oh, that'll get a standing O from the... It didn't. Science didn't get a standing ovation. But, you know, another thing I saw that I've never seen before, maybe I just didn't notice it, I saw the Supreme Court stand up on one line.
Oh, which one was it?
Have you ever seen that react?
I don't know. Probably. Maybe like with something like "We respect our soldiers" kind of thing. Was that it? Exactly. I think they've done that before.
Okay, so when it comes to the soldiers, they do stand up?
I guess Alito didn't show up, and Scalia didn't show up, and Thomas didn't show up, right? That's what I heard that. I didn't actually notice. But
big shock.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, I thought the best thing was the reignite. We have to reignite the true engine of our economy, a thriving middle class. I loved the fact that he talked about, hey, you gotta... It's unconscionable, the millions and millions of people in this country who work hard and do not make a living wage.
Yeah.
It is immoral. It is unethical. It is an outrage.
Yeah, it is.
It is an outrage. You know what I saw? USA Today. They have these little graphs, you know, on the front page.
Oh, yeah.
This is a graph of union membership. Mm-hmm. And the graph starts in 1936 and goes to last year. 1936, only 7.5% of Americans.
Yeah, that was just before the Wagner Act.
Were unionized. By 37, that had almost doubled. Yeah. In 1 year, union membership almost doubled because of the Wagner Act. And the Wagner Act, for those who don't know, did what?
Basically made it possible to bargain collectively. So it was within a very short period of time where you saw the steel mills and the coal and everything else.
Now look, the peak of union membership, 1953, where slightly more than 1/4 of American workers were unionized. And then by 2011, it had plummeted to about 12%, where it was in 1937. But I got to tell you, look at the economic fortunes of the middle class, of the average American. And this graph could be that. Because when union membership was at its peak was when the middle class took off.
Right.
That's when all of a sudden the American dream came true.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's the funny thing. If you ask the Republicans, like if you sort of imagine the Republican version of America in its Eden period, right, in its golden era, they're probably thinking the 1950s. That's like that to me. That's always the thing that I think is so funny is that moment they have fixed in their mind when all was right in America, other than the Reagan years, was that. And,
there were a few things that I think helped the 50s just take off. Obviously, the end of the war, but with the end of the war, this huge government freebie program of sending all the veterans to college.
Yeah, GI Bill, absolutely.
The GI Bill, which I do not think Republicans would support.
Interstate highway system?
The interstate highway system, which was the doing of a Republican president, Dwight David Eisenhower. So it was infrastructure, government spending, ladies and gentlemen, government spending on infrastructure, on education, and then union membership. And look what happens. You get the wonderful heyday of the middle class, the 50s.
Yeah. Fins on cars.
Fins on cars.
That was the private sector's contribution.
Oh, God. But seriously.
No, absolutely.
What is it that they don't get the history?
Well, because they don't do the history. They give a highly selective version of it.
Okay, here's Chuck's... Chuck writes, it seems cruel of Biden to match lavender glasses and a lavender tie with no promise of performing Benny and the Jets. I'm sure he'd be more than willing.
I know. That's the thing. Let's not give him any ideas.
And here's a question Chuck has. Where the Republicans and Democrats intermingled with each other last night, because I didn't see any shots of one half of the room. There was a lot of
started doing that in the past few years, I think. And Bob,
Schumer was sitting next to McCain.
Casey and Toomey sit side by side. I think. I don't know that they did
So
it
you
this
didn't
time.
get that thing, and it wasn't as readily noticeable when the Republicans sat. And also Chuck writes, I expected that Marco Rubio would use this opportunity to put a new face on the GOP, but his comments were,
I think that's true. The whole first half of the thing was just like, government doesn't create jobs. No. And it's just...
Right. No, it's just it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
This is their great hope.
Yeah, but again, none of these guys can stray from the orthodoxy. They cannot do it.
Be unbelievable.
Except maybe on immigration. That seems like the one.
Yeah, that was the one where everybody cheered. But I thought the president was waiting till the end for the gun control.
Because you knew it was coming.
And did he do that well. Mm-hmm. He played that and played the audience reaction, and it rose. And it even made Boehner stand up. I don't think anyone could have resisted that. You had to stand.
Right.
And all he was saying, stop and think about what he was asking for. He wasn't asking them to pass it.
Just to vote for it.
He was asking them to vote.
Right. Which is a not so implicit rebuke of Senate filibuster and Senate rules and the Republican exploitation
now
of them.
Speaking of that, I don't know if you noted that Lindsey Graham had said he was going to put a hold on the vote on Hagel. Mm-hmm. And the and Senator Reid, who is the head of the Senate, said, "Fine, I'll ignore it." Okay, so wait a minute. So it turns out the Senate Majority Leader can ignore, he can. And it turns out he can ignore these holds. Well, then why the hell?
Well, I was going to be doing it all along. I don't know.
You know, I want to take the whole bunch of them out. Well, I figured, you know what it is? Because they all think that, because that's a club. That's an exclusive club of just 100. And the hold allows one individual senator to have power.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Reed's thinking, I don't want, I want to honor the hold because there'll be a day when I want to use it.
Right. Exactly
right?
So
that's what they,
yeah.
But this one, no.
Yeah.
Another interesting moment when they announced the President of the United... Oh, this is for the second time when he's already at the podium.
Right.
They pan the audience. And I'm looking, and here was I'm thinking, oh, God, so the Republicans will be sitting there. And they took a shot of one of those mixed groups, and it was Schumer and McCain and Lindsey Graham. So a Democrat between two Republicans. Schumer is on his cell phone, and he's texting. He is not applauding. Right. The two Republicans were applauding. Right. And I thought, oh, well, that's not what I was expecting. Right. Just another little...
Actually, you reminded me of my favorite reaction shot, which was when Obama mentioned the climate change bill that McCain himself had worked on. And they go to McCain, and McCain gives this great sort of like, thanks for bringing that up.
He looked happy.
No, he looked, that was a rictus. That wasn't, oh, great. Thanks so much for reminding everybody of the fact that I was once somewhat reasonable on the issue.
You know how when the president walks up, he gives a copy of the speech to both Biden, and he got them. They're different, and they put them.
You wonder what the difference was.
There wasn't one.
Yeah. Well, then why? I
don't know. But Newt Gingrich, who obviously spent some time up there being the miserable Speaker of the House during Clinton's addresses, said. I happened to see him, I guess he was on CNN or something. He said afterwards, and this is funny, he said Clinton once walked up and handed him the speech, the thing, and he opened it up and it said, I, William Jefferson Clinton, do hereby resign. And then he said, Clinton said, oh, wait, no, I didn't get to that. Isn't that funny?
Is that true?
That's
Gingrich, amazing.
Isn't that funny?
That's hilarious. Yeah, that's really funny.
And when Gingrich was telling you, he was laughing and laughing. And here, these two, think of those two. There was that,
That's why Clinton was Clinton, man.
That's what Gingrich was saying. He said, what? I guess they were asking him, isn't it hard to sit back there? They were, I guess, alluding to Boehner. To sit back there, and he said, well, this was during Clinton, and that was different. And he told that story. I can't believe it. I saw that look.
I was looking. It's true.
And you hit it right at 20 after.
It's like I got a clock inside me that prevents me from coming here on time. But that gets the 20s right.
Indeedy. Okay, we'll take a break. And if you have any more things you want to throw into the pot here about the State of the Union address, feel free. Because when we get back, I want to move on. We got lots of stuff to talk about. In a minute.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Pittsburgh City Paper is available now. Pick up one today for the most comprehensive dining, event, and happy hour listings in Western PA. Plus Moulin Rouge, Soul Asylum, Kyle Abraham, and American Idiot. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com. And on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com.
Join 1 Billion Rising Pittsburgh for a global day of festive resistance to end violence against women. 1 billion women assaulted and raped worldwide is an atrocity. 1 billion people dancing to end violence is a revolution. We will rise on V-Day, February 14th, 12 to 2 p.m., Market Square. www.onebillionrisingpgh.org. Strike, dance, rise.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
Oh, boy. Okay. I want to go local for a sec.
Yeah.
Because we talked a little bit about the Chief of Police last time you were here.
Oh, man.
Right?
Yeah.
And I mean, since we last spoke, there have been other extraordinary revelations, if you ask me.
Yeah.
About his allowing the guy he was supposedly in business kind of with, a subordinate who he later promoted to commander, to take another totally full-time job that supposedly required him to be on call 365 days a year, 24 hours while he's being a commander here. It doesn't stop. And now we have FBI going into the police bureau and walking out with tons and tons of boxes. This appears to be related to the grand jury thing with the former friend.
Right.
Budway or whatever his name is.
Well, and also to secondary employment, which is another...
what is this?
Well, and we should add, before we get into this, WTAE, your erstwhile employer, has a story about a Pittsburgh police officer who was running her own business, her own online merchandise store, selling like Pittsburgh police paraphernalia and stuff like that with like the badge logo emblem on it, which is apparently a violation of the city code, which prevents employees from using the city's iconography for private gain. So,
what the hell is going? Well, these are the cops.
What's surprising to me, and this is the kind of thing that maybe you have to be a reporter to kind of remember. But from the earliest days of the Ravenstall administration, there were concerns and questions about how secondary employment was being handled, because there were things going on where cops were acting up and acting out. And the city was getting sued on the basis of what they did. There were questions about whether there was favoritism in the office. This is going back to 2007. The Ravenstall administration was going to take care of this. They were going to come up with the solution. They were going to have the policy. And now you open up the paper today, or is on TAE actually, where you've got the mayor's spokesperson saying, we're going to formulate a clear policy about secondary employment. It's like, well, you were supposed to have done that 6 years ago. And I mean, I think this is the problem for the Ravenstall administration. All of this happening, in the 3 months before an election, is when these guys say stuff is going to get fixed, there's not a lot of confidence that it's actually getting fixed.
No.
I mean, would anybody be surprised? And I think this is the question. If I was Bill Peduto, or if I was Michael Land, the people challenging him, this is the question I'd be asking every day between now and the primary.
That's right.
Would you be surprised if a week from now there was a massive snowstorm and we were completely incapable of handling it? And I think most people would probably say no. That would not surprise me at this point. And I think that's really the problem for this administration. You just feel like they just kind of like bumble through stuff. They get past it. They get through the bad press, and the issue goes away. And is it going away because they've really solved the issue, or is it just going away because it's only once in every 5 years that you're really going to have something like that blow up on you no matter what you do?
Oh, okay. Does Ravenstall can Harper before the election?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, if I had to guess, I would say that the only reason Nate Harper is still in that job is because there's an election coming up.
Okay, so but with all of this attention though focusing,
at some point, does he wish that Harper would just step down?
Why doesn't he send him a little note about follow the Pope?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
do as the Pope did.
Yeah. I don't know at this point how much communication there really is there.
Oh my God!
But it is
but
just
I mean,
remarkable.
When the police, it seems like as you look at the crime news is about the police.
Yeah.
Those are the big crime stories.
Looks like we got a call. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi.
I work for the city. I
Okay.
used to send you emails when I worked for the mayor's office regarding things that were going on.
Right.
But one of the things that we're all so confused about this whole police business is the fact that Director Michael Huss is the public safety director.
Right.
His name has not been mentioned once in any type of media regarding this
well, now in the
investigation.
in the pyramid, is Huss Huss is above Harper.
Harper reports directly to Huss.
And Huss then to the mayor.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
So you think the question, and what do you think the question should be? Do you think it's just a matter of Huss not exercising oversight, or do you think there's more to it than that?
Well, I think that he's missing in action. He might as well be in Seven Springs right now.
Yeah.
The way things are going, because he's not addressing the problem. It's under his watch. They're making this fall under the mayor. However, I know he oversees public safety, but so does Huss.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
Nothing
is. You're right. Nothing is said of him.
No, and it's a mystery to me. And a lot of other city employees, and we want to know what the heck's going on. We're just as much in the dark as everybody else.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. I mean, everybody jumps on the mayor, but the fact is there's someone in between the mayor.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately, it's a really interesting question because you're right. He is sort of sandwiched between. I mean, ultimately, the mayor, everything happens on the mayor's watch. That's where the buck stops, to use the old cliche. And of course, the chief himself is the most immediately responsible for what happens within his own bureau. But you're absolutely right. Between them, there is this level of management. And yeah, it's a fair question. I could. I
you
can see what
guys
you're saying.
at the city paper could look into this.
Yeah,
that would be
interesting. Yeah, that is interesting. That's a good thought. Thanks for the call.
Thank you.
Yeah, one more thing.
Yeah, sure.
I would have called earlier, but I couldn't see the phone number because Chris's head was in the way.
Yeah, so either I need a lower chair or we need a higher banner.
Banner. Move the camera over to the left a little bit. Okay.
Thank you for that.
Thanks. All right, we'll see you. Bye.
Okay,
I'll just stay down here for the rest of the show. That's fine.
You see, you're crouching now.
Yeah,
Do not exhibit good posture on this program. That'll be.
I'm like Bobby Jindal. I'll just get smaller the longer the show goes on.
The phone number is 412-316-3381 in case Chris sits up. So
now I'm going to be self-conscious.
Okay, so I got to tell you, unbelievable. I think this is a huge story.
It is, and it's. I mean, the other thing too is you just get the set. I mean, you can tell, I think, by looking at the stories. I mean, the Post Gazette had a story from, and I can't remember exactly how it was described. It was someone, a senior commander or something like that was the language. Speaking, not for attribution, just saying like this is heartbreaking. That people deserve better than this, and you just know that this is stuff that has been, there is stuff spilling out over the side.
He was suggesting, he was saying that the morale in the department is bottoming out, and this city employee. So this is what city employees are doing now. They're all like, you can imagine the rumor mill.
Yeah.
Going nuts, working overtime.
And it won't until, and that's the reality. That's to the extent that there's more stuff out there, it's likely to spill out. This is exactly the kind of thing that happens.
So
stuff starts to snowball.
Here's what I'm thinking. Part of why the Pope stepped down, I think, is because he literally lost control of the Vatican. He didn't have control of it, never did. But, of course, he's a theologian. He's not an administrator, and it was a bad fit, bad choice. Cardinals. It was not a good choice. But he knew it.
Right.
And God bless him for that. Ravenstall, I think it's the same thing. I get the impression Ravenstall has never had control of... You look at somebody like a Fitzgerald who has too much control or desires too much. And then Ravenstall, who just likes to show up for proclamations and signing and ribbon cuttings and doesn't really seem to be there.
It is interesting in that this is, I would say, of all the stuff, if you kind of go back and you think over the course of the Ravenstall administration, almost every controversial thing, except things like the Snowmageddon or whatever, has really boiled down to police. You look at the promotions that he's made. Some of those have been really controversial. You look at the stuff that's going on now. Like I said, there's just questions right from the outset. There were questions about this guy, Denny Regan, whose name you don't hear anymore. He got rid of. But there was a question there about, who's sort of running the show here? Who's actually running this department? So it has been a consistent refrain throughout his administration, and it's a little surprising to see him. This thing now. I'm going to have an outside consultant come in and figure this stuff out. You know, I mean, you know, if I didn't know better, if I was just being purely cynical about it, I would just say this is just a way of kicking the can down the road until after the election.
Right.
Because you can understand that, you know, Chief Harper is popular with older black residents,
ask you
especially.
This. It seems to me that Harper is popular with everybody. Everybody I've talked to among the media, Republicans, everybody says, oh, he's such a, everybody likes him. I've never met the guy.
Yeah. I've met him briefly.
He's very
on occasions at pressers and stuff. But
he's well liked.
Yeah. And I would say, you know, his and I think I've mentioned this before, his bureau has been a little more forthcoming than his predecessor was with information and stuff like that. So, you know, we've appreciated that. But I think at a certain point, I mean, you're just starting to see this thing. And I just think people at this point have no idea what the hell is going on in their own Bureau of Police. And it just seems absolutely crazy to me.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, well, there will be many more developments here.
Yeah.
As you say, it's snowballing, which means it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, because now you got unhappy people talking, you got reporters must be crawling around over there. Everybody, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
See, he's a reporter. So this is good stuff for the local journalism, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, as long as they don't email your questions to everybody else.
I know, but this is another thing that they did. Okay. All right. I want to read you a letter to the editor.
Okay.
In the New York Times today.
All right.
It was written aboard ship near Hong Kong, and the writer is Desmond Tutu.
Okay. Familiar with him.
Okay. He was writing in response to front page New York Times analysis of the president's drone policy and the fact that people are calling for there to be a court of some sort to determine who should be on kill lists, blah, 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 blah. Desmond Tutu writes, I am deeply, deeply disturbed at the suggestion in this piece that possible judicial review of the president's decisions to approve the targeted killing of suspected terrorists might be limited to the killings of American citizens. Do the United States and its people really want to tell those of us who live in the rest of the world that our lives are not of the same value as yours? That President Obama can sign off on a decision to kill us with less worry about judicial scrutiny than if the target is an American? Would your Supreme Court really want to tell humankind that we, like the slave Dred Scott in the 19th century, are not as human as you are? I cannot believe it. I used to say of apartheid that it dehumanized its perpetrators as much as, if not more than, its victims.
Right.
Your response as a society to Osama bin Laden and his followers threatens to undermine your moral standards and your humanity.
Yep.
Well, I knew you'd
agree with that. Yeah.
Be agreeing. But
yes.
I think so, too. We have abandoned many of the standards that we have always held dear since 9/11. And here's just the...
But I think the answer to his question is, yes, Americans are completely comfortable saying that other people's lives are worth less than our own.
No, I don't think there's any doubt
we
about
might be
that.
comfortable. We might not be comfortable coming right out and saying it, but our every action suggests that it's true.
That's true. And when we're arguing about this, we say you can't kill an American because an American has American rights.
Right.
And, Desmond Tutu, you don't have American rights.
Right.
Also what? I hate that. It's a perfectly good thought that went.
Yeah.
Does that happen to you? No?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Does it?
Mm-hmm.
Not yet. Not yet?
No,
not
it happens
as much?
all the time.
Yeah, I hate it. Yeah. Maybe it'll come back. But it was about that. Yeah. I don't know. Well, I know. It was a thought. It used to freak me out when I first got into the news. That when there was a cataclysm of some sort, when an airplane went down in Europe or a hurricane or anything, and it wasn't here in America, I learned that it wasn't really newsworthy to the editors here, unless it. Were there any Americans on board?
Right.
Were there any American casualties?
Right.
And I remember my question was, what? What does that have to do with anything?
Right.
But I came to learn that was all. Americans just cared about Americans. Other people's deaths, well, they're unfortunate, but or is that just the thinking of, is that really the way Americans think, or have they been trained to think that way?
I don't know. It's a hard question to answer.
And do other countries do that? Like in French media, when a plane goes down, were there French aboard? I would think other countries do the same thing.
Yeah, I would think there's a certain degree of human nature that's bound up in that kind of tribalism, I guess. I mean, the difference is that a lot of those other countries aren't in a position to be killing people in countries halfway around the world or whatever. I mean, to me, it's obvious, you know. I mean, look how much energy has been expended over figuring out what happened to the 4 people in Benghazi, 4 Americans, right? God. Versus look how much energy is spent worrying about what's going on in Syria, or how many tens of thousands of Iraqis died as a result of that. I mean, are you seeing Republicans calling for investigations of that stuff at all? You know, I mean, no, of course not. Of course not, because there's because there are Americans, and B, because there's political points to be scored off of it. So if you're not somebody who if you're not an American and political points cannot be scored from your death, then your death doesn't matter in this country. That's just the reality.
On the other hand, rather than paint it as so Americans really think American life is more valuable, how about the fact that when a president takes the oath of office and senators and congressmen take oaths of office, their oath is to protect and serve not the world.
Right, the Constitution.
The Constitution.
Right.
And that's about American.
Right. And realistically, I mean, I guess just kind of thinking about Tutu's argument here, would it necessarily be any better for an American court to decide about how Americans kill people from other countries? That seems also a bit of prejudice. Yes. Or prejudice isn't exactly the word. Chauvinism, I think, is the word I'm looking for. That our justice system should be able to make decisions for people who aren't part of it. You know, I think what you'd really need would be some kind of world court justice system, and of course that's the one thing that America will never subscribe to, because we can't even, you know, I mean, just we can't even agree for the United Nations to adopt our own rules about domestic violence and things like that across the world. Like even that somehow is a presumption upon our liberties in the right-wing gospel. So I mean, you know, clearly it's just not going to happen. We just don't do it. We reserve the right to play cop to the world, but we don't submit ourselves to any system of global justice.
Caller, go ahead, please.
How you doing, guys?
We're doing fine, thank you.
Good. You talking about the news and the news media. I got to the point where I watch these shows or read the paper, and I don't believe everything that's on the paper. It seems to be more opinions of people than actual news. I mean, some of it's the truth, but it's almost like when I watch it on television, I better read a few more articles of something else to really figure out what the truth is, because it's so much opinions anymore. It's not the news.
Okay, well, that's wise as a consumer of news.
I agree with that entirely.
Yeah. Well, good for you. You're right. We're not going to disabuse you of that thought.
And I don't know how you could watch Obama, and I voted for him, but it's just more lip service. They'll put through more half-assed bills because nobody wants to agree with anybody.
Yeah, that's right.
And it'll be 4 more years of disappointment, not because of him, but because of the people in there, even Democrats.
Right.
They're against some of this gun control, too.
Yeah.
So I think it's all bought and paid for a long time ago. Have a good day.
You too, man. No, actually, you know, I've seen some analysis of that speech, which was that the message of that speech was, I'd really like to do some stuff, but these guys won't let me. You know, like that was the whole message of the State of the Union speech. Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of truth to that. He was asking the question, why would we be against this? You know, well, because government doesn't create jobs, that's why.
Oh, and I love the line about, you know, we can't lurch from phony crisis to phony crisis. As we are lurching.
Right, to another phony crisis.
Right. Back to, you're not looking at me for any reason, are you?
Oh, no, take this first. This is good.
Okay, we just want to quickly... Okay. Beth writes in regard to the cops. With this breaking story of the Pittsburgh police, I've been thinking about Jordan Miles. I wonder how this young man is feeling today. The FBI will seize documents from the Pittsburgh police about money, but will not investigate or seize documents about the questionable arrests, beatings, and shootings of black males in the city by police. I hope this search opens up more investigations by the feds, and not just some cops, and not just that some cops did not 1099 other cops
for off-duty work.
Good point.
Well, it is a good. I mean, I would say the problem always with the Jordan Miles thing is the documentation isn't. It basically boiled down to he said, they said, and that they were cops. And my feeling has always been that there was never a chance for that case to come out any differently than it's been coming out because of that. It's just the justice system isn't set up to second guess police officers when there's no evidence. To the contrary.
When the only evidence to the contrary is a beaten up kid.
But they have an explanation for that. They have an explanation for that, and the justice and that the problem is the justice system is set up to take the word of the police for it. But no, I totally understand where she's coming from. It does seem a little surreal.
How quickly they jumped on.
This is but it's always like that. You know what I mean? This is like the real scandals of what go on in Harrisburg, or when they do, they try stuff like transvaginal ultrasound, all this stuff, and what gets people caught up is Mike Vion, and did he do this, that, or the other with the campaign money? And I think a lot of times to people, some of the stuff that goes on, some of the investigations it just seems so tangential to our actual lives. And like, granted, you like to see these guys get taken down a step or two, but
it's not making.
Yeah, it's not putting the chicken in the pot.
Real consequence in the broader scheme of things. We are under orders to take a second break.
Yeah.
So
just land on a log.
Yeah. So we shall do that now and be back in just a minute, I would say.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen live after this.
Go to BarkBargains.com for great deals on meals from your favorite local restaurants, museums, and shows. This week only, get discounts up to 20% on gift cards to the Olive Garden. Supplies are limited. BarkBargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. BarkBargains.com.
This is the sound of a flat-screen television hurled off a building. Now the new bike your kid wants. These are the things you could have, all cast into oblivion. Because when you throw away money on wasted electricity, you throw away everything you could have bought with it. Use Energy Star light bulbs and appliances, and you could save hundreds of dollars a year. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen live at PGHCityPaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
Okay, catch up on a few emails. Michael writes, please help me to understand something. How can a nutcase like Ted Nugent make a threat against the president and then be allowed to attend a venue in which the president is present? Oh, and you can't spell Nugent
without nut. N-U-T.
Yeah, but, well, he disarmed before going in. And
yes, that's right, he did.
And
they put him way in the back too. That's what the photo I saw. It looked like they had him in the.
It says something about the Republicans, Ted and the NRA. Ted Nugent is on the board of directors of the National Rifle Association. Ted Nugent has said the most vile things imaginable about not only the president but about Hillary Clinton. I mean, you can't. He is, and this is a guy who is still paid respect by some members of the Republican Party, including this Texas congressman who gave him that ticket.
But in fairness, let's not forget all the ways in which Ted Nugent has ennobled and enriched our national discourse, like with lyrics such as "Wang Dang Sweet Poontang." I mean, come on.
Is that him?
I mean, you have to look, when you have an artist of that caliber, you have to look at the broad gamut of his work.
Jesus God Almighty. Hey, I just want to say I am against wrestling being dropped from the Olympics.
I saw that today, and
that doesn't seem right at all.
By it. Yeah.
Wait a minute. What are they doing?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a basic sport.
Yeah. And now what else? I mean, that's the end of wrestling,
right?
right?
It's money too.
Yeah.
It doesn't. You can't sell a lot of tickets to the wrestling event, so it's money. But I think it's outrageous.
Yeah, it struck me as really sad.
I mean, that's like that goes all the way back to we still do discus.
Right.
We still do javelin.
That's right.
Why would we not still do wrestling? And something like 40 nations do send. I mean, the nation. I think
there's several countries who only send like a wrestlers, right? I think it's like some of those former Soviet republics only send one or two. That was how Kurt Angle, Pittsburgh's own.
I know.
If it had not been for Olympic wrestling, the WWF would have been denied
Kurt
Angle's presence. I think that would have been a tragedy, really, for all of humankind.
Now they say that they have to do it based on what sports are now popular and relevant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Javelin.
They don't have soccer in the...
Oh, no, they do, I think. Yeah, they do.
Soccer in the Olympics?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. U.S. women's team won not, didn't they, the last time?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, because I was thinking, I don't remember soccer, because that would be the most popular sport in the world.
Right.
And it is an Olympic sport.
It is. Yep.
Okay, well, that takes that away. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, but wrestling, I'm sorry. That is so basic. Should not be. Should not be. I don't know if you saw this piece, but I mentioned it on the air, and I want to do the follow-up for folks. When Obama went to Newtown for that, there was a prayer service after the massacre. Mm. And there were a number of clergy from various denominations who did a benediction or did a prayer or this and that, blah, 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 blah. One of them was a new minister of a Lutheran church there. And one of the children who had been killed was in his congregation. And he, I believe, did a benediction. He was called on the carpet by the head of the Lutheran Missouri Synod, of which that church is, because he had broken one of their rules, which is to pray essentially with heathens, to pray with people who represent false religion.
Right. Yep.
Okay? He was told to apologize.
Yep.
He did. He apologized to his congregation. Well, apparently, when it became known, all hell must have broken loose.
Yep.
So now the head of that denomination did he reverse himself. And he now has put out an apology. And here's part of it. I naively thought an apology or offense in the church would allow us to move quickly beyond internal controversy and toward a less emotional process of working through our differences well out of the public spotlight. But that plan failed miserably. And he goes on to say, I take full responsibility for this debacle. I handled it poorly, multiplying the challenges. I increased the pain of a hurting community.
Yep.
I humbly offer my apologies to the congregation, Christ the King Lutheran Church in Newtown, to Pastor Morris, and to the Newtown community. Well, at least he, sometimes they don't come around. This guy seems to have learned something.
That guy should have resigned in protest. The first guy. I think as a man of God, he had an obligation
to do that.
Yep.
Anyway, and
he would have been a hero.
The same guy who was apologized now, the head of the Missouri Synod, Lutheran Church, had suspended a Brooklyn pastor after 9/11 for doing the same thing.
Yeah, so this wasn't some Yeah, I'm not impressed by this guy's apology at all.
I think he's just trying to.
Yeah, I think he stepped in it, and yeah.
But he was overseeing their church's doctrine.
Yeah. Right. Well. Yeah. I mean, hey, Go back and read the Bible. Jesus sometimes ran afoul of the teachings of his day, and he knew whose side he was on.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, a good chunk of the New Testament is about Jesus being opposed to people who interpret the law of God as, you know, or these sort of orthodox rules in a way that is actually against the spirit of the faith itself. So, you know.
Well, now that we've stumbled into religion, so what were you stunned by the Pope's announcement? I was, just because
I was surprised.
You'd never seen anything like it.
Stunned would imply that I cared, you know. I mean, I just not that invested in it. I mean, I was surprised, certainly. But I'm sure they'll come up with some other guy who will just, I mean, you know, this is one of those things. It's just like the cardinals who do the choosing, from what I understand.
Well, they've all been chosen by the two last popes who are both
conservative, you know. So maybe they'll choose, you know, I guess the big thing is, will they choose somebody from Africa or Latin America or something like that? And, you know, I guess it's possible, but in terms of, I can't imagine there'll be any diversifying of the actual, you know, beliefs or precepts of the faith. So, you know, from my perspective, in fact, if anything, you might see it hardening, right? Because a lot of they're very hardline folks
that
on
are
some of these social issues in Africa and in South America as well. So, you know.
Okay, but we've talked about this. We were talking about it somewhat yesterday. Don't they? It's sort of like the Republican Party, the Vatican. Don't they see the writing on the wall? Don't they see that the world is moving way beyond them? Don't they see they don't have any priests anymore? Don't they see they don't have any nuns anymore? Don't they see they can't? I mean,
but see, from there, I will say two things to that. One is the theologically correct argument, I think, would be, well, it's the world's job. It's the world's job to get right with God. It's not God's job to get right with the world, right? I mean, the fact that a sinful world doesn't believe what we believe is no reason we should change what we believe. It's the reason to double down. I think so. That's the first thing. The other thing is when you actually talk to these guys about this stuff, what they'll tell you, and for all I know, that, you know, there's truth to it, is the churches. You look around at the churches who are really losing members, and it's a lot of the more mainline faiths, including some of the ones that have become more
liberal,
open and tolerant on these issues. My own Presbyterian, you know.
Well, that's
whereas
true, but
look
all
at the,
the
look at where the growth
churches
is.
Are, right.
Where the growth has been in these sort of crazy ass evangelical. No, I mean, I
agree.
You know, that's where this sort of kind of fundamentalist type stuff is where you see the growth. So, you know, what they're going to say is, you know, A, it's not our problem, and B, even if it was, there's evidence to suggest that if we do try to temper our message, that we end up losing adherents rather than gaining them.
So you think they should, I don't know what you think they should do, but they should have a smaller, purer church.
No, I think they prefer not to, but I think purity is they would say purity is the main thing, and then the size of the church is, I mean, whatever that is you have to follow where my disagreement is I simply think they are what they believe about God, and this is just my opinion as a believer. They're just wrong. I think what they believe is messed up. Mm-hmm. And so I don't really care what happens to them, because I think they're messed up.
Hey, did you see? So the watered down Catholicism, Episcopalians. So did you see the? I'm sorry.
It's a little more to it than that. I mean, the very fact that you see Episcopalianism as watered down Catholicism is the problem, right?
Are you an Episcopalian?
No, I'm just what I'm saying is I would to me Episcopalianism is actually a more correct interpretation of those beliefs.
Okay, Episcopalians though came into being because Henry VIII wanted to screw somebody else.
That's correct.
All right. I'm just saying that's sort of a ignominious way for a church to begin.
Most churches begin ignominiously.
I don't know. Jeez. So anyway, all right. Do you know? So the Episcopalians the priests are down there in Market Square today. Did you know that?
I didn't know that. What are they doing?
They have ashes.
They
do.
Just ash distribution. Yeah.
Have they done that before?
I don't know.
So, I mean,
of course, you see people downtown.
Again, that's the watering down, though. So, I know you can't make it to church to get your ashes. The church will come to you. So,
no, I think that's good, though.
They're down there. You do? Yeah.
Jesus said, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there I am with you,
Okay, so anyway, if you need your ashes, that's where they are. I think they're in a few other places, too.
Yeah, just look for large buildings with pointy tops. And
I told you what Paul Long used to do.
Yeah, I was just thinking about Paul Long. I was on my way.
Every Ash Wednesday, I think of Paul.
Yeah, that's funny.
And for anyone who didn't hear it, it wasn't funny. You were horrified when I told you.
It is funny. I was surprised because I didn't know that Paul Long was
such a crazed atheist.
Yeah.
Okay, but so Paul Long, former anchor man for WTAE, loved cigars, famously smoked them in the newsroom until, of course, the smoking police put an end to that.
Right.
But he always would have like a stogie and it'd still be there. And on Ash Wednesday, he would always take the butt, whatever. It was always disgusting, chewed up, big. And my desk was next to him. He would always as soon as he started seeing some of the people in the newsroom with the ashes on there, he would think, oh, here they go again. And he would take the ashtray, take his stogie, and I don't know if he ever went on air with it. But have you ever seen somebody on air with it?
I have not.
I have.
Really?
I have. I don't know if I've seen a local anchor with them on, but I have seen people on. You watch on cable today if you don't see some people with ashes.
Especially on Fox.
Yeah. Which brings me to this. You know that dot on some Indians?
Yeah.
Women?
I think it's called a bindi, but I could be wrong.
A bindi?
I think so.
Is that something that they put on a daily basis, or is that something that's been tattooed or something kind of
I think that you can take it off, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, I've often wondered.
Sure. No, yeah.
You have these. If you're not part of whatever ethnic group it is, you sit and wonder about things. Like I was telling Jess the other day, was I not, Jess? I wonder about all those cute little black girls with their hair totally encased in those beads. Mm-hmm. You know how they're so cute? Mm-hmm. They have all those amazing hairdos. Mm-hmm. But that means that when you lie down, you're lying on beads.
Yeah.
That can't be, huh? You get used to it. Yeah, like those bangies who used to have their lips stretched out.
Jesus. All right.
Okay, you think you want to go?
I'm just saying. Just about over.
All right, and I just want to, while we're talking about strange things people do to adorn themselves, I hate those big black things that people are stretching their earlobes out to. Yeah. Why are they doing that?
I've been doing that for years.
It's so ugly. It's so ugly.
It's tribal.
Well, it's why.
I think Jess thinks it's kind of cute. Just by the look on her face.
It's stretched.
Yeah. See?
Okay, what is this? PJ writes, not to defend Sweaty Teddy. Who's Sweaty Teddy?
That's Ted Nugent.
Oh, not to defend Sweaty Teddy because I think he's a dick, but he never actually threatened the president. His rhetoric was, if Obama is reelected this time next year, I'll either be dead or in jail.
Well, actually, I think
he also said something about the president
suck on my machine gun.
My machine gun.
I think that was what people were a little more concerned about. But yeah, I mean, I do think it's certainly worth noting that, apparently after he said that stuff, the Secret Service paid him a visit and there was a brief discussion. And obviously the fact that he walks the streets of Freeman to shoot deer and stuff like that suggests that they didn't see him as a threat.
I guess. What do you mean shoot deer? You think that's all he's up to? Is he a hunter?
He spends a lot of time,
hunting.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Lynn. Always good to be here. Tom Sokolowski tomorrow?
Yeah, although Jess was thinking maybe he wasn't here tomorrow, so I'll email him. We think he is.
All right.
Hard to keep track of you guys. Potter looks like he can't get out of here fast enough.
I got a lot to do today.
You do?
Yeah.
You got to go dig around in the cop shop?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, okay. He's got that journalist look on his face. Okay, you guys, tomorrow. Have a good one.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.